Hi everyone, how are you doing this evening? Or whatever time it is where you are. Sorry for the late start here. I feel like there's quite a bit of latency this evening, so I'm not sure if I need to change the stream settings, but it seems to be a good 20 seconds behind, so I don't know if it's going to be a problem, but we will adjust later if we need to. Yeah, so haven't done one of these in a while, but I thought I had a little time this week and it seemed like a good time to do some channel updates, talk about what I'm reading, and just generally catch up. It's kind of dark in here. Don't know if I should turn on another light, but anyway, hopefully that'll be okay. I'm going to just, it usually takes a while for people to trickle in, so I thought I'd just start with some reading and let's read some poems until more people show up, because I don't want to dive into the announcements too soon if not everyone's here yet. And hello to Possible Pilot Deviation. We are a little bit late, but we are going to just read some poems first before getting into the channel updates. So I've got some poems here by John Keats, and this has been on the channel before, but it's fun sometimes. I don't really read poetry books from cover to cover usually. Sometimes it's fun just to go back and pick one out to read now and then, so maybe we'll do that here. Now, Keats was one who, I wish there was a little biography of him. Maybe there is if I look in the right place. Oh, yeah, it's in the back of the book. I like the short biographies. So John Keats was, I think he was a British poet, born in 1795, and it seems like he was probably lower middle class. It's kind of the story I'm getting here. Oh, this is actually quite a long biography. So he was influenced by a number of other authors, including Spenser, who wrote The Faerie Queene, which is a very long epic. And what else did he... I know one of the poems is about Byron, so of course he must have been a big influence as well. And yeah, this is actually quite an in-depth biography, so I'm not really able to extract a lot of highlights from it. But I know that he didn't sadly live very long. I believe he died in his 20s or early 30s, so pretty sad, but prolific output for somebody so young. So let's read. Let's see here. Let's just read one of these at the beginning here. Can death be sleep when life is but a dream, and scenes of bliss pass as a phantom by? The transient pleasures as a vision seem, and yet we think the greatest pains to die. How strange it is that man on earth should roam, and lead a life of woe, but not forsake his rugged path, nor dare he view alone his future doom, which is but to awake. Hello to the people that just joined. I'm just reading a few poems here as people trickle in, and then I'm going to get to the channel announcements and what I'm reading. This is a book of poems by John Keats. You've probably seen it on the channel before. Some of them I've, read as well. He wrote in a very, the style that was very common of the late 1700s, early 1800s, very elaborate, poetic style. To my brothers. Small busy flames play through the fresh-laid coals, and their faint cracklings o'er our silence creep, like whispers of the household gods that keep a gentle empire o'er fraternal souls. And while for rhymes I search around the poles, your eyes are fixed as in poetic sleep, upon the lore so voluble and deep, that I at fall of night our care condoles. This is your birthday, Tom, and I rejoice that thus it passes smoothly, quietly. Many such eves of gently whispering noise. May we together pass and calmly try what are this world's true joys, ere the great voice from its fair face shall bid our spirits fly. It's very bittersweet. Some of these are actually really long poems. Ooh. On the grasshopper and cricket. The poetry of earth is never dead, when all the birds are faint with the hot sun, and hide in cooling trees a voice will run from hedge to hedge about the new mown mead. That is the grasshopper's. He takes the lead in summer luxury. He has never done with his delights, for when tired out with fun, he rests at ease beneath some pleasant weed. The poetry of earth is ceasing never. On a lone winter evening when the frost has wrought a silence, from the stove there shrills the cricket's song in warmth increasing ever, and seems to one in drowsiness half lost, the grasshoppers among some grassy hills. All right, so I think I will get started. So, let's see. Channel updates. Let me pull up my notes here. So, yeah, it's been a while since I did a live stream. I was trying to do them every week, but it really wasn't being practical for me. I'm entering a pretty busy season of life, and I feel like I say that on every live stream, but it's really true, more so than ever. So yeah, I had two options, honestly. I thought, well, I can stop making videos and vanish from the face of the earth. I don't really like that when people do that. I understand why they do it, because when you're a content creator, there's like all this pressure to keep making videos and, keeping up with your friends and your audience. And a lot of that is just like, it's so overwhelming. Like I get why people just stop. Like they don't even want to talk about it. But I don't like to do that. Because, I don't want to fake my own death here or anything. The other thing is I thought, well, what if I just start making like really short videos? But I don't think that shorts are my forte, and I don't think that's why people subscribed to this channel. They like the longer book reviews and, obviously a little more analysis and, literary exploration. So for that reason, I decided that I'm going to keep making videos, but they are going to be a little bit more infrequent. And it's not what I want to do, but it's just, life. But I have some happier channel updates, so let me switch to my other screen here. Oh, there we are. And let me go over to that other tab. Alright, so we should be looking at my YouTube channel. And I've made a couple of secondary channels, which you can find down at the bottom here. One of them is my writing channel, which is just Marion H. Rowe. I don't have a lot here yet. I've wanted to add a lot more, but I just haven't had the time to invest in it yet. So there's just one poetry reading. And then the other channel is my ukulele covers and such, which I thought I would just put on their own channel. Now, you may be wondering, why make more channels? I mean, it's just a lot to keep track of. And that's true. Personally, I prefer just everything on one channel, very, variety style. But I've been talking to different YouTubers I know, and, the current wisdom is actually to niche down, as they say. So instead of having a variety channel, actually just have a channel for every specific topic that you do. And it's supposed to be better algorithmically. It's supposed to be better for each individual channel and subject. I don't get it. I don't know why, but it is what it is. So that's what I'm going to be doing. And because I really want to reach as many people as possible with Classics Considered, and I don't want to do anything to mess with the algorithm. So yeah, those are the other channels. Let's see. So I think I've talked about my Patreon briefly before. So I do have a Patreon if anybody wants to support the channel that way. I have a link to it in all of my video descriptions, but there's also a button here. You can go check it out. Right now, it's basically just a big tip jar of sorts. Like, I don't have any exclusive content to share yet, unfortunately. It's something I would like to do if I had more time, but I just dare not commit to that right now. But let's say you don't want to do that, which is totally fine. Another thing that you can do if you want to contribute, and a shout out to Zadie for mentioning this, you can help me create closed captions for my videos. Now, how does that work? So if you search on Google for like YouTube captions, something like that, you're going to find a page that talks about how to do it. And there's more in-depth tutorials out there, but basically what you do is you come up with a file that ends in SRT, and it's really simple, honestly. It's just a bunch of lines of text with timestamps, and the closed captions are here. And then all I have to do really is just upload it to the video, double check it for typos or anything, and then it's good. Zadie very kindly did the captions for my most popular video, the Emily Dickinson poems, and it just was really satisfying to see that, because I do care about accessibility and people who may be hard of hearing or otherwise needing captions, and it's something I don't have a lot of time to do myself. So that would be a great way also to support the channel. If you want to do that, feel free to make one of those files and send it my way through email. My email, if you don't know, is just, it's on this About tab. If you go down to business inquiries, so-called, you can find it there. And you can also get to it on my blog. There's like an email form. So yeah, that was a long spiel, but just some channel-y things to get you guys up to date with. Let me think, is there anything else in that realm to talk about? I don't think so. Yeah, I'm going through all this really fast, but hopefully that'll be pretty straightforward. Yeah, so what are we reading? What are you guys reading? Let me know in the chat. I'm not reading a lot right now. I did a blog post about this recently, but I just sort of felt the need to reset my reading recently. Okay, this lighting is really bad, but hopefully it's not too difficult to see. Yeah, I'm not reading a lot of things right now, but I do have some reading updates. But first, I want to show you this book that I mentioned on a previous video, the one where I was talking to my brother about what we were reading and Christmas books and things. So this is that amazing copy of Dune that my parents got me for Christmas, and my brother kind of hinted to them that this would be a really nice addition, and I'm really grateful that he did. I mean, I really like paperbacks too, as you all know, but this is like the deluxe hardcover, and it's got this wonderful blue edging, colored page edges. So that's cool. And then it's not all just aesthetic, although it's very aesthetic. This edition also includes like a bunch of appendix material, kind of like the Lord of the Rings. So I'm really looking forward to this. Have not started it yet. We are planning to do a read-along of this, my brother and I, after we finish Crime and Punishment, which we are still trekking through. And that's one thing I want to talk about. But I'm going to wait a little bit to talk about Crime and Punishment. This will be our next sibling read. Another book I'm reading right now. So I'm going to talk about 3 books right now. First one is called, let's see if I can, I think I need to go to Goodreads potentially. Let me see if I can pull it up here on my browser. What's it called again? Oh, that's embarrassing. I don't remember what it's called. I only go to my Goodreads. You haven't been reading it much if you can't remember what it's called. Okay. Let me zoom up here because this is really small. I think I did mention it too on... It's really noisy out there. I'm sorry, guys. Hello, Buck. Nice to have you on the live stream. Sort of, semi-impromptu live stream. I'm just going over current reading, and feel free to share what you're reading. Let me switch to... Goodreads. Awesome. So, what I'm reading, or have been reading, so kind of 3 things. And this is Anita Brookner's Look at Me. Kind of on a break from this, and I have to explain why. Let me get it up on my iPad here. This is a book, I'll read the synopsis. A lonely art historian, absorbed in her research, seizes the opportunity to share in the joys and pleasures of the lives of a glittering couple, only to find her hopes of companionship and happiness shattered. Sorry, trying to pull it up here on my tablet. And it's just, I hope I didn't, maybe my hold expired because I'm not seeing it. Well, that's disappointing. 1 second, let me see if I can just rent it again really fast. Basically, this is a book, like it says, about a lonely young woman who befriends some people that she meets through her job, and she's really trying to get away from the life she's leading now, which is very sad and lonely and depressed because she lost her parents. And, her life was kind of centered around her mother especially, so after that, it's just, kind of the dull routine of life. And she's a very bookish, introverted person, very, not the kind of person to have a glittering social life. So when she meets this couple, she thinks that she can transform herself by becoming their friend and that they will kind of draw her out of her shell, which they do at first. Come on. Let's see if I can... Oh, the good news is I can borrow it again. It's not exactly a super popular book or anything. Hello to Graybo. Welcome. The good thing about Overdrive is usually they keep all your notes, even if you have to... Let's see here. Even if you have to return it. So, oh yes, excellent. So I'm going to switch back to the other view and we're going to look at this book. So Look at Me by Anita Brookner. And I have a lot of quotes from it. I am how far? About almost halfway. But I'll try to explain why I had to take a break from it. So I really found myself drawn to this narrator. She is, like I said, kind of relatable, honestly, for some of us. I mean, she doesn't exactly live a super glamorous life. She's just someone who likes to read, someone who likes to write, and, doesn't have a lot going on, kind of bored, kind of lonely. And what I really like about her, though, and this was reminded me of, I think I said before, it reminded me a little bit of the Bronte sisters, how she's so introspective and always analyzing herself and just, what's going on in the world around her. Loved that. Here's a quote to sort of explain that intense self-reflection. She's describing her new friends, and she says, "They soon became an addiction to which I gave myself, aware that it was precarious, but also aware that it was more fruitful than my regular, orderly life with its bourgeois preoccupations, that it yielded more company, more excitement than I could hope to find on my own." I like how she describes how she knows she's kind of following these red flags and, just she feels like it can't get any worse and that it could possibly get better. And she's sort of gambling on the fact that if she takes a leap of faith that maybe these unpleasant people will turn out to be nice, Oh yeah, there's this whole section. This is very Lucy Snow from Villette. She talks about how, she hates holidays because they're just so hard to celebrate as a person with really no friends or family. And, there's some other good ones here. What's this one? This is a very, very cynical and sad quote. She's a writer and she's trying to work on her writing while she meets this couple, but she gets distracted, obviously, and the more she hangs out with them, the less she wants to write, and in part because the female of the couple, Alex, doesn't really take her writing seriously and sees it as sort of a competitor to their hanging out together, which is kind of silly, honestly. It doesn't stop her from hanging out with them, but writing becomes the third wheel in this, and she says, "It was then that I saw the business of writing for what it truly was and is to me. It is your penance for not being lucky. It is an attempt to reach others and to make them love you." And she goes on, "It is your instinctive protest when you find you have no voice at the world's tribunals and that no one will speak for you. I would give my entire output of words, past, present, and to come, in exchange for easier access to the world, for permission to state I hurt, or I hate, or I want, or indeed, look at me. And I do not go back on this, For once a thing is known, it can never be unknown. It can only be forgotten, and writing is the enemy of forgetfulness, of thoughtlessness. For the writer, there is no oblivion, only endless memory. Hi, Marty. Thanks for joining the live stream. We are just kind of going over what we're reading right now. Feel free to share in the chat. I'm reading some excerpts from a novel that I was reading and I'm taking a break from, but it's called Look at Me by Anita Bruckner. And it's from the 80s, I believe. So, yeah. A very sad book, frankly. So I wasn't feeling so great anyway, so I just kind of had to take a break from it. But it's beautifully written. It really hits on some hard truths about what it means to be a writer, what it's like being an outsider in society, and just the kind of dumb mistakes people make in an attempt not to be isolated and not to feel friendless, and, you know, stuff that is ever so much more relevant now, at least certainly as much as it was in the 80s. I mean, this story would be actually a really interesting one to retell with social media, because social media offers you so many more, faux relationships, I guess, or at least relationships that are not always to your benefit. You just seek them because they draw you out of things you're trying to avoid. So not all of it's bad, obviously. This book, again, was quite a downer, so I took a break. Yeah, and I'm reading other downers right now, but not intentionally. So the other two books I am reading, turn that off, are Dubliners by James Joyce and Crime and Punishment. So let's turn now to Dubliners. I'm gonna pull it up on Project Gutenberg this time. I have a sort of respect for these old covers. I feel like there's just something nice about a really plain cover, because you can't really gloss over the story. It just is what it is. So I've thus far read the first two stories. This is for Ireland. First one is called The Sisters, and the second one is called An Encounter. And actually, to be more precise, I've been listening to an audiobook. The audiobook is... You can actually listen to the first two on YouTube, and the audiobook is read by Andrew Scott. Any Sherlock fans or people who've watched the series Sherlock know that he plays Moriarty, Professor Moriarty from Sherlock. He is a fantastic reader. I was shocked how... Well, I shouldn't have been shocked, because he's a brilliant actor in Sherlock. But anyway, he is a great reader. I actually decided to get this audiobook, and I never ever buy audiobooks except this one time, because he was so good. I'm like, I gotta listen to this whole book read by him. So yeah, you can get the first two stories free on YouTube, a whole 40 minutes, which is pretty impressive for a promotion. And yeah, so let's talk about Dubliners real quick. First of all, it wasn't... Well, let's have some tea first. Okay. First of all, it wasn't what I was expecting, in the sense that, you know, Joyce, his reputation precedes himself. And you go into it thinking, okay, this is going to be a real challenge. I'm going to really find it difficult. It's going to be, Joseph Conrad levels of hard to read. But actually, Dubliners is nothing like that. It's very easy to read. And the two stories that I've read so far or listened to are quite short, actually. And they're told in this very realistic, naturalist style that is just very accessible. I mean, we can just read the first part of this here. There was no hope for him this time. It was the third stroke. Night after night I had passed the house. It was vacation time, and studied the lighted square of window. And night after night I had found it lighted in the same way, faintly and evenly. If he was dead, I thought, I would see the reflection of candles on the darkened blind, for I knew that 2 candles must be set at the head of a corpse. He had often said to me, I am not long for this world, and I had thought his words idle. Now I knew they were true. Every night as I gazed up at the window, I said softly to myself the word paralysis. It had always sounded strangely in my ears, like the word gnomon in the Euclid and the word simony in the Catechism. But now it sounded to me like the name of some maleficent and sinful being. It filled me with fear, and yet I longed to be nearer to it and to look upon its deadly work. I absolutely found his style rather entrancing. Certainly helped that it was read so well, but even just in this one paragraph, if you pick it apart, you'll see kind of why. I mean, he throws you right into the tension, like he's not holding back at all. He's describing a scene, describing 2 characters, and he's throwing in references to a child's schooling and their religious schooling as well, which comes into play later in the story. So, I mean, it's just jam-packed with references to the rest of the story, with atmosphere, haunting, and this personification of paralysis as some, quote, maleficent and sinful being. It's quite a remarkable first paragraph. So I would say, so far, I don't think Joyce is overrated at all, because not only was this story very well told and eerie, but the next one was even more unsettling. But yeah, to stay with the sisters for a minute, this story was about an old clergyman who dies. This is, all takes place in Ireland, obviously. And it's about this young man of, it doesn't really say how old he is, and that's one of the interesting things about it. His age is kind of fluid in the story. Sometimes he seems like a child, and sometimes he seems like a young man. And it's about the memories that people have of this elderly clergyman, and sort of the gruesome sadness of his death and the mysterious circumstances of his last years. And, it does one of those things that I really appreciate these days in literature, which is it doesn't spell out everything for you. It lets you come to your own conclusions and guesses about what was going on with this elderly man. Why was he so distraught in his last years? And was he as good as everyone said he was? Or was there something that he did or that happened to him that was quite dark? I guess it kind of shares that quality with a lot of Japanese literature. It's just sort of subtle. And there's plenty of dialogue, but you don't learn as much as you think you would. Yeah, great story. Very well told. So the next one is called An Encounter. And this one's quite interesting. It starts out sort of like a Mark Twain story. It's about these boys who decide to skip a day of school and go have some fun because they've been reading all these books from America about the Wild West and about detectives, and They want to have adventures. They don't want to go to school. It's kind of it starts out so lighthearted and kind of entertaining that way. I was personally interested that these American stories had such a big impression on these Irish boys. Shouldn't be a huge surprise. Obviously, Westerns have had probably nearly a global impact in the 20th century, but it's just kind of fun to read. And then the story takes quite a strange turn when they meet this elderly man who is he's let's just say stranger danger. Like, he's not not a good person. And the story is so geniusly told, though, because not only do you have that this innocent setup to this strange scene, and then like when they finally meet that guy, he just casts a shadow over the tone of the whole story, and it's so unsettling, because the first part of the story is almost mundane. They're trying to skip school, they go walk around town, go look at some ships, and it's just all kind of underwhelming to them, like that nothing happens really, and the boys are kind of semi squabbling among themselves sometimes, and just really almost nothing to remark upon until they have this terrible encounter with this old pervert. And it's like such a strange juxtaposition of things to happen, and yet feels very true to life. And I just think, and the ending of the story, I think, maintains the sort of Mark Twain style of storytelling where, the boys use their innovative thinking and what they've read in books to kind of get them out of the scrape, and of course they follow their own intuition. But yeah, this story was even more disturbing than the first one. So, but still very well told. So I don't know. I can see why, I heard that this collection was not well received when it was first published, or at least it took a while before he could find a publisher. But honestly, it's very well written. I think people were probably uncomfortable with how true to life it is, and yet I wouldn't say so far that it's certainly not explicit or anything. It's just showing the real world as it was, as he presumably experienced it. So that's very interesting. Graybo says The Dead is superb. I know that someone else mentioned, or maybe it was you on a previous live stream, that last story, The Dead. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm going to be reading the next two stories probably tomorrow. I think we're going to be doing 2 stories a week, so yeah. Dubliners, a very chilling and yet promising start to James Joyce for me, and certainly exceeding expectations. Yeah. Let's see here. So now I think I'll talk a little bit about Crime and Punishment. My ups and downs with Crime and Punishment. So, when did we start Crime and Punishment anyway? Let's see. There was a video about it a while back, so if you haven't seen that one, feel free to go back 3 months ago and check that out. Yes, it's been a while. Crime and Punishment is certainly not any more cheerfuler than Look at Me. So it's been a little tough to read. Let's see here. But good news about Crime and Punishment. I am now 2/3 through, meaning the end is in sight. I've just finished part 4 of 6. So let's look at what we've got to talk about here. I'm going to try not to get like spoilery here, but it is possible I may inadvertently give away some spoilers. Hopefully not. I'm just going to try to talk about it in a surface way. So previously I talked about how the first two parts of Crime and Punishment were very disturbing, very shocking. And the next two parts, parts 3 and 4. Maybe that was just part 3. Anyway, I think it was actually parts 2 and 3. Were kind of boring. Someone actually described Crime and Punishment to me as cyclical, so like things happen in circles, if you will. And I would have to agree with that. It is not... I mean, it's even more unlinear than some of the other books by Dostoevsky I've read, so that was interesting. I don't think it's any spoiler to say that the main character is somebody who committed a terrible murder, actually 2 murders, and he is, trying to keep up like he's trying to hide that, obviously, from the authorities who seem to be on his trail, but he's not really sure. So that's like one side of what's going on. The other side of what's going on is he has a sister who has gotten into some unfortunate scandals with her former employer. Not her fault by any means, but she just, how it was back then. People would throw dirt on the innocent party a lot of the time, and that was really like very traumatizing. And not only traumatizing, but it prevented her from sort of getting back to a normal life, and now she's being pursued by the guy who was acting like a jerk towards her, and she's also pursued by this other guy who is also acting like a jerk towards her, and it's just a mess. So I can't say a lot has really happened since all of that. A few things have happened. I'm not going to say what exactly, but a lot of these last 3 parts have just been these feverish conversations, okay? Classic Dostoevsky. Somebody's sort of ill and they're kind of ranting and raving, and then they talk to somebody and that person may or may not even be there, but they think they're there, and then they go talk to some other people, and it's just, full-on drama. I mean, it's honestly very enjoyable, but yeah, it's interesting. I don't really know what's going to happen at this point. Like I said, I finished part 4. I'm 2/3 through, but I honestly don't know what's going to happen next. He has so far, managed to avoid being found out or caught, even though he's come close to it several times. And he doesn't really have any prospects because he is terribly paranoid about being found out. And then he's also, worried about his family. He's worried about some friends that he has. And he has a sense of guilt. Now, that's the part that's kind of puzzling to me, because on the one hand, Dostoevsky's kind of trying to paint him as this Superman, Ubermensch character who just does what he wants and, is above morals or whatever. But he does have a recurring conscience, and it's not yet clear what exactly is causing these moments of conscience. And I think that, to me, is the most compelling part of the story. Like, why does somebody who does something so horrific, what is it that actually keeps drawing them back and making them feel guilt? Because he's not, in any ways that I can see, like, truly religious at this point or anything, and he, doesn't have any, doesn't seem to have any remorse about the people he's killed exactly. Not in the sense that, normal or average people would have remorse. So it just remains to be seen. It's the biggest mystery of them all. And yeah, I don't know if I have any really good quotes. Let me just check here though. Whoops. Come on. Okay, yeah, it helps to tap the right button. Okay, yeah, I don't really have any. I mean, I did obviously highlight a bunch of stuff here, but I don't think I have anything that makes sense to share quite yet. So, yeah, a book of conversations, mostly. Buck says, maybe you should work in some Woodhouse as a palate cleanser. I tried to read some Woodhouse recently. Yeah, that might be almost, like, I need something cheerful, but maybe not that cheerful yet. We'll see. Dr. Irwin, while an authority on Dostoevsky, has a great lecture on his work. I'm gonna have to look that up. I wonder if, oh, you know what? 1 second. Okay. I thought maybe the chat was hiding some messages, but it looks like it's okay. So yeah, that is where we're at with Crime and Punishment currently. You know, I wouldn't say it's my favorite Dostoevsky at this point, but I can see why it is considered a great book. I think it's almost modern in the way it's told, I would say. Just the fact that he's kind of just going from scene to scene in this very fluid way, and he doesn't mind just throwing in random stuff. I mean, it doesn't feel like a typical 19th century novel in that sense. And I like that. I think that's one reason Dostoevsky remains so endearing, is because he manages to surprise you sometimes with really unpredictable things. And some of the scenes have been quite chilling. There's this one scene where his sister's would-be suitor comes to visit him, and he just like appears. And it's just really surreal and creepy, and you know, they have this conversation, but he doesn't know if he's even talking to somebody who's real until later. So that's fun. Yeah. I think that's all I have for Crime and Punishment right now. I will try to do something a little more structured on it when I've finished it. I just think right now there's just not that much to say yet, and a lot that has to be revealed by further reading. And let me see if there's anything else I've been reading that's worth mentioning. I think that's about it. Oh. Let's see. I have actually read 0 books this year, which on Goodreads it just means you haven't finished any books yet. So that's that's fun. That's okay. My goal for this year is to do quality reading and not worry about how many books I've read. Goodreads is kind of slow right now. I read a couple of stories from this other collection. Maybe I can pull them up here, actually. So for Lunar New Year, I wanted to read some stories from East Asia. And oh boy, let's see if I can find it. Here it is. All right. Only read 2 of them so far, okay? This is a somewhat obscure collection from the 1970s, and I say obscure because I looked up some of these books to see, or the authors rather, to see, are they famous, and I recognize one or two of the names, but for the most part, these are people that were either famous or on their way up back in like 1974, and then they didn't maintain that status later, but that's okay. You don't always have to read somebody who's a New York Times bestseller or anything, and I think sometimes these lesser known gems offer some interesting perspectives. So what did I read here? I'm gonna get to the actual table of contents. Here it is. Okay. So I read the two stories from what was then the Republic of Vietnam, that is South Vietnam. My Milk Goes Dry by Min Quan and An Unsound Sleep by Nhat Tien. These were both interesting stories. My Milk Goes Dry was kind of a bizarre story. It's about this woman who is obsessed with feeding her children, or her babies, by breastfeeding them. And I know that sounds really weird, but bear with me here. So she grows up as the semi-adopted daughter of her uncle, and her uncle is always like abusing her verbally and just being a really mean guy. And they have this superstition about kids who, and I don't know that this is a Vietnamese superstition, it's probably just in this family, something about how kids that are bottle fed don't turn out as good as kids that are, breastfed. And there's like this sort of colonial commentary on that too, because I think that the milk they're getting that's, in a bottle comes from the West. So, you can kind of read it that way too. So she sort of grows up with this paranoia about feeding her children that, natural way. And it's kind of tragic because, of course, she reaches a point where she can no longer do that and has to come to terms with that. So, like I said, weird story, but I kind of got into it as it went along, and I think that it's kind of an interesting commentary on, you could say, well, it's about colonialism in Vietnam, but it's also, I think it's more about how the things that you grow up with, the assumptions and the beliefs and the traditions and in some cases, abuse, how it shapes you as a person when you grow up, and in ways that, seem natural to you and you are used to them, but they're in reality perhaps not reasonable at all, or they're just, actually hurting you. So I think it's a story about two things. It's about, women and their bodies and how they're perceived by other people and how they're perceived by yourself. But it's also about trauma and how trauma affects you, I think, as you're becoming an adult, in this case, becoming a mother, and forming your own family and your own family belief system. So these are topics I've actually been kind of studying separately right around now. So this was sort of a timely story for that reason. I'm sure it won't appeal to everybody, but I thought it was surprisingly good for the subject matter. And then the other one from Vietnam is called An Unsound Sleep. This one was quite tragic. It's about this old man whose daughter is involved in revolutionary activity, and how that, it's kind of ironic because on the one hand, she meets her future spouse through these activities, but then at the same time, she gets sort of separated from her father in the sense that they don't have the same interests anymore, the same family life, and it's not that he doesn't think she's a good daughter in the sense that he's just worried about like maintaining status quo, and he doesn't want her to get in trouble. And so he gets kind of mad at her for being involved in this activism. And so he has to come to terms with that change, and it's a very poignant story because he's also addicted to alcohol, I think it is, and that he just is so overwhelmed by the social change and the family change that he really leans on that addiction a lot. Again, a kind of continuing the realm of naturalism and how the world is. There's nothing very sugar-coated about this story. I thought it was pretty good. It's not on the level of genius compared to Joyce, but it felt very believable and poignant. So yeah, these two stories were both good reads, and I plan to read the rest of the stories too, but I got back into Dubliners, and then, you know how it is. So yeah, I don't know if this is on everybody's overdrive or not, but this is what the cover looks like, and so you might want to check it out if it's on your overdrive. And I got kind of a vintage cover design. Alright, so I think that is all I had for reading updates. Trying to load Goodreads again and see if there's anything else. Nope, that's it. So, I thought I'd just hang out here at the end, and I want to look at something that I've been meaning to look at for a while, but let me see if I can turn the lights on a little brighter because it's kind of dark in here. So one moment. Is that going to be too much light? I think that's okay. Alright, so let's just put that aside for a moment, and alright, so this may completely bore you to tears, so feel free to head out if looking at an old magazine sounds really boring. I have all these books and magazines and things from my grandparents, and I've been wanting to do videos about them, but, just wanted to wait till the right moment. And I'm especially excited to look at these old collectible editions of magazines that my grandpa saved. He and I have sort of the same idea, which is that collectible editions are pretty awesome. So this is from January 1981. This is National Geographic. And this is a picture of the ash from Mount St. Helens, which blew up the year before this came out, I believe. And this was, something that people living here could see, obviously, because it was so close. And I know that there's been all kinds of natural disasters in the world recently, so it might be kind of interesting to take a look at this and just see what they were saying back then and the kind of pictures they had. So that's what I'm going to be doing now, so if you're interested, feel free to stick around. The old ads are pretty cute too, so like here's an ad for Rice Krispies on the back. It's a perfect night for sparkin' on the front swing, for love that's still young, still full of snap, crackle, pop. It's gonna be a great day. Yeah, so this is pretty vintage, but gotta love it. I haven't actually looked at a National Geographic in a while, but I've always liked their photography, and it's one of those magazines I'll always want to pick up just because of the photography. My tea is getting cold. So let's see what kind of stuff they have in here. This is an old car ad. And they're also advertising gold replicas of United States stamps. Interesting. I don't know why you'd want a gold replica of a stamp, but you know, whatever floats your boat. I mean, they are kind of cool. I guess if there was a particular design you were a fan of, it might be fun to have it framed like they're kind of showing here, but I don't know. I almost wonder if it'd be more fun just to have the original stamp. Hi, Joseph. Nice to see you on the live stream. We're just winding down the day here with a 1981 National Geographic. So that, and there's more, but I thought I'd start with this one. So what do we got here? Some kind of bank. Some kind of bank ad that looks like a mask. Not the kind of mask we know, but the mask with the, like a Zorro mask. Okay, so here's a National Geographic Society membership for $11.50. That's not too bad. Yeah. I know my mom remembers Mount St. Helens going. She wasn't really as interested in it at the time, probably just due to other stuff going on, but yeah, of course it was really big, and it continues to be pretty important to people that live in this area because you can still go to see the crater. And if you've been to Mount Rainier and then you go to Mount St. Helens and see the crater, it's quite shocking because you get there and it just looks like, I mean, you realize how much, like what a catastrophic event it was due to how flat and empty looking Mount St. Helens is. But it's also a gorgeous hike, so that's another good reason to go see it. We've got some fabulous full boating now. Some special kind of boat. They're advertising British colonies stamps. Exciting collection of genuine postage stamps for only 10 cents. Hold the empire in your hands. Okay. Ship models. Now that's cool. And then you can get Mount St. Helens, the volcano, Super 8 color action movies. Imagine that. You can't go on YouTube to see it, but you can order some videos to watch at home. And they're selling, oh boy, this is hard to read. You can get it in silent for $19.95 or with sound for $29.95. Satisfaction guaranteed. Allow 4 to 6 weeks for delivery. Add $2 postage and handling. Very cool. Imagine if you had to subscribe to get your YouTube channels in the mail. Now, that would be interesting. Yes, I've been to Mount St. Helens a couple times. It's really beautiful in the summer and the fall. Well, I'm sure any time of year, but yeah, it's a really great place to go have a picnic and take a hike. Announcing the commemorative covers of the presidential inaugural day. Okay, so we've got some presidential postcards or something. Very cool. Oh my. Where is this year's exciting television coming from? What is this about? So now, oh, they're advertising their shows. Okay. I suppose a lot of people now just think of National Geographic as television series. Okay. So here comes like the actual magazine. Ooh. Now that's a nice picture. You could probably cut that out and frame it if you so desired. If you don't want to sleep at night. St. Helens, mountain with a death wish. A gleaming white peak in the Cascades blasts away the top 1,300 feet of its crest in a massive eruption that takes dozens of lives, perils thousands of others, devastates 200 square miles, triggers destructive floods and mud flows, and sends ash clouds rolling across the northwest. 21 photographers capture the cataclysm in broad scope and stunning detail. An assistant editor, Ro Finley, writes an intensely personal 3-part account of this first volcanic event in the contiguous 48 states in 63 years. Aw, and a very sad picture of a dead bird. Thank you, National Geographic. Okay. Ooh, a 2-page spread in case that one wasn't scary enough. Towering wall of destruction, searing gas, ash, and rock races toward Bear Meadow at 200 miles an hour. As photographer Gary Rosenquist fled in his car, along with other campers, he snapped this final frame of a remarkable sequence that begins with the fold out on the following pages. What? Oh man, I have to say I would kind of love to have been there. Okay. Oh my. Okay. We gotta change our setup here so we can see the fold out. Look at that. Some cute vintage camper there. Man, that is... I think this moment, well, there's this moment and then there's the next moment when it's covered the sky and it's like all dark, and yeah, that is pretty terrifying, I've got to say. Really great photo though. Okay, what else do we got here? So here is a nice diagram. Oh boy, I hope this shows up decently. Oh dear. I don't really like this camera. Okay, so anyway, it's showing you kind of the progression of what happened over the course of really just, wow, 8:27 a.m. to 8:32. So this was quite a fast explosion, I guess. I mean, I don't know how long these things typically take. Here's the first paragraph. It says, no one expected so hellish a blast. Scientists had warned that a menacing 320-foot bulge expanding 5 feet a day might trigger a great avalanche or an eruption, yet no one could predict St. Helens would explode with the fury of a 10-megaton bomb. It started at 8:32 a.m. and it was a magnitude 5 earthquake. Hot volcanic gases and steam rocketed out horizontally through the fractured mountain, scouring ridges and leveling forests as far as 17 miles away. Pressurized groundwater flashed into steam, and gas-filled rock blew into dust, throwing 400 million tons into Earth's atmosphere. They were able to rescue 198 people from the area later, but 61 others were left dead or missing. Okay, here's the photographic comparison. Very nice diagram plus photos showing what happened. Joseph says, my wife remembers Mount Pinatubo exploding in the early 90s. There was ash in the air for weeks. Oh, that's awful. That would be seriously scary. So here's another, oh, there's more. Another angle. Is this all the same photographer? Yeah, it looks like Gary Rosenquist got, as far as I can tell, all of these photos. He was on top of things. Okay, that's pretty interesting. So what's this here? Oh no. Now this is the stuff that really is heartbreaking. So on the top you can see when there were all the trees and snow and just normal times. This would be like a typical scene from Mount Rainier. And then below you can see it looks basically like Mordor. It's just completely stripped and gray and dry and horrible. Wow, it says some 2 million birds, fish, and animals perished in the May 18 explosion, and more than 150 miles of trout and salmon streams and 26 lakes were destroyed. The forests were simply removed, uprooted, shredded, or blown away by sandblasting winds of hurricane force. Yeah, so pretty bad. Here's a picture of... Okay, so this was a neighboring city and what they saw. Now that's pretty terrifying. Oh yeah, this is a story about the man who wouldn't leave. Yeah. All right. I really like these old style graphics. I just like the fonts they choose, and I don't know. I feel like design today is good, but I feel like the design in the 20th century was just something special. Let's see. So yeah, some more terrifying pictures. Yeah. Imagine being in that helicopter. Now that would have been pretty cool. Huh. Oh, here is a really nice chart. So this shows you, oh dear, I don't know if it's going to show up. Okay, I'm going to try to hold it still, but I don't think. That's really disappointing. Anyway, this basically shows all the mountains that you should be aware of. Major active volcanoes in Cascade Range shown in exaggerated scale and named in red. So you've got Mount Baker, Glacier Peak, Mount Rainier, Mount Adams, Mount St. Helens, Mount Hood, Mount Jefferson, and so on. So yeah, we've got a lot here in Washington State. We are volcano state, frankly. Well, I mean, apart from like Hawaii, but like, yeah, Mount Rainier is still due to explode, like Mount St. Helens. No, that's horrible. Wow. just like toothpicks. That's insane. Oh, these are photographers who died. Wow. I like photos like this. So this one shows a reading that this area here was, 330 degrees Celsius or 626 degrees Fahrenheit, just 10 feet below the surface. Wow. Huh. Ooh, all right, so let's see, this one is looks like this was a bridge or something. Wow. Oh boy. Oh. Wow. That's... Ooh, okay. Oh, here's another good graph. You know, they're just winning with the graphs here, so this compares different volcanoes and their explosions sizes. So here's Mount St. Wait. Oh, interesting. Wait a minute. Let me read this here. Huh. Well, it appears to be a comparison of different volcanoes and how much their ash spread. So Mount St. Helens, that particular explosion is down here, so it's relatively smaller compared to some of these volcanoes in Cuba and other places. That's interesting. Okay. Like snow that wouldn't melt. Wow. There was so much ash that it got into the sewers and kind of messed up their system. That's things you wouldn't necessarily think about happening that happened. Wow. There's a lot of interesting lessons here about, you know, are we prepared for other things like that happening or not? And yeah. Okay, so I think that's the end of Mount St. Helens. So the next article here. Okay, so the next article is about prehistoric animals that I guess were preserved in volcanoes. Joseph says the ash rained down and got in all the water. That's horrible. Wow. I like the old magazines that have illustrations instead of computer graphics. I mean, I like computer graphics too, but there's something kind of neat about illustrations. Okay, so I think that comes to the end of everything to do with volcanoes, and now the next article is about they're redesigning the airplane. Okay. Don't know much about airplane design, if I'm being totally honest. I should. Some more drawings and illustrations. I absolutely love this stuff. Marion, have you been to La Brea Tar Pits? Is that in California? Let's see. I don't think I have. I have been to California, but I haven't been to the tar pits. I have heard about it, though. Yeah, that would be really cool to visit. I like how this page looks like something from a science fiction publication. It's very cool. Oh. They're using hydrogen bubbles in water in a water tunnel to simulate airflow and make it visible. That's cool. Interesting. It seems like oh, this is kind of another nice diagram slash illustration. Okay, so the Boeing 707 is sort of, they're putting it right in the middle between like the Wright brothers plane down here and the Anglo-French Concorde and General Dynamics something Scamp. Small plane up here, small plane down here. Oh, this is like a proposed airplane. Very cool. I love this blurb here. Largely self-taught, Robert T. Jones of NASA's Ames Research Center became one of the world's leading aeronautical designers. Among his contributions are the principles of the swept wing and pivoting wing. His curiosity even led him to design an electric violin. Oh, okay, so that was the end of the airplane articles, and now I think this is the last article that's featured. Poland's mountain people. So it's kind of interesting. They've got volcanoes and then airplanes and then this feature about people that live in the mountains. I don't know if I'd really want to pair all those together, but I guess they knew what they were doing. National Geographic, after all. Now this is one where reading the whole article would be very interesting, honestly. So maybe I will end up doing that later. Oh, that's beautiful. Ghostly solitude of a spruce forest, a vision to gladden Goral hearts. Spruce builds and heats their homes, gives birth to song through musical instruments, and decorates their lives. Many of their traditional woodlands are now enclosed by Tatra National Park, where 8 villages own and manage about 7,000 acres. That's cool. So this place is called It's called the Podhale region, and it's in southern Poland. That's so cute. Oh, wow. The old art of glass painting. That's cool. That's really beautiful, isn't it? Wow. Oh, how cute. It's like a little... This is a sugar lamb, and they made it for Easter. It's so cute. Oh, what an interesting story about this church. So it says, erected by village well, a wooden church is ringed by an Easter procession. When 25 years ago, Goral asked for a permit to build it, socialist officials said no. Undeterred, carpenters night after night cut beams in secrecy, then assembled them at the church site. Result, a finished edifice the authorities were forced to accept. That's awesome. Oh, it's really neat. traditional wedding. Ooh, I'm sorry. Oh, you National Geographic. Here we were feeling so heartwarmed by this wedding, and now they're going to show us an article about cockroaches. Well, no thank you. I don't think I want to see that. I'm so sorry, guys. That was not fun. Okay, I'm just going to skip the last article because, ew, no. I don't want to learn about cockroaches, do you? Like, I kind of know enough about them, I think. Wow. Why they gotta put a jump scare at the end of National Geographic? What's up with that? Okay, well, anyway, I think that's enough excitement for one evening. I think I'm going to go get some more tea. It's hot tea. Thank you to everyone who joined the live stream. That was a lot of fun. I have more magazines that we can look at in the future. So stay tuned for that, and hopefully more reading updates too. So yeah, good night everybody. Have a good rest of your week, and I'll talk to you soon. Oh my, that's hilarious. Oh dear. Okay. Stop the live stream.